Hey everybody, how are you? Another edition of Sev Geff Live. Paul Severino with you here. Glenn Geffner on the other side. Glenn, it is another week. It is another fun guest coming up in just a couple of minutes. Nick Neidert will join us. But again, hopefully we're getting a little bit closer to baseball. Still a lot of things to be worked out, but hopefully there's something of a 2020 season on the horizon.
Yeah, it seems like every time we get together here, we're maybe a step further down the road. Since we last convened, we had that 67-page document that came out with what a baseball season might look like, some of the really funky changes that we might anticipate for players, for everybody involved with the game. So we'll see. But it sounds like there's a lot of conversation still ongoing. We know that as of yesterday, the Marlins opened their spring training complex back up to players who are in the area, a couple at a time, socially distanced. You can't work out in groups. It's very limited, but it's a step in the right direction, so we can be encouraged by that.
Right. Just, kind of individualized, kind of by appointment only sort of workout sort of things. It's not, all pitchers and catchers as it would typically be in a spring training setting or, an entire infield working out together. It's just guys getting to work in bullpen sessions or guys getting work in the cage and stuff like that. So, again, from a Marlins perspective, good to see that guys are out. I'm sure that, in the coming weeks, more and more will trickle in as things maybe where they reside open up or more comfort comes from that or whatnot. So, and then hopefully in a big picture, we start to get baseball back. As we have been doing these last few shows here, kind of partnering with the Marlins a little bit in their home run rewards program. Again, it's more than just our good looks that you're rewarded with by watching the show. The home run rewards, today's bonus code is the word fantasy. FANTASY. Fans can now
have this fantasy about the 2020 baseball season getting started. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, you and me both, pal. Fans can now earn points by picking a player for each simulated game in the Marlins version of fantasy baseball. You can log in, enter the bonus code, and pick a player for extra points. That's marlins.com/rewards, and it's fantasy. We are also trying to branch out a little bit here. It's not all completely 1,000% up and running, Geff, but we're working on making it easier to join in and listen with the show.
That's right. Realizing that not everybody can sit down for an hour and watch one of our shows. What we are going to begin rolling out here the next couple of days is a Sev Geff podcast. We're going to take all the interviews that we've done already and all that we'll do in the future. We're going to put them out in podcast form. And as soon as that's all up and running, we'll tweet about it at our Sev Geff Live Twitter account. And your and my personal Twitter accounts will get the info out. But if you want to listen when you're walking the dog or driving the car or whatever it is you may be doing, we'll put the interview portions of all our shows out, including the great ones you've already done. Don Mattingly, James Rowson last week, John Birdie, Brandon Kintzler on down the line. Everything we've done, everything that we will do moving forward is going to come out via podcast very, very soon, and we're excited about that.
Right. The interns are very hard at work, both of them. Both interns, Paul and Glenn, both interns hard at work. All right, so let's get to today's guest. Hold on, I lied. Today's question first, and then today's guest, because that's kind of how we usher our guest in. First, Geff, what do you have for the question of the day?
Well, we mentioned that 67-page document that at least a summary of has gone public in the last week or so, explaining what it would look like from a health and safety standpoint if we could get this 2020 season started. So our question of the day is, having seen that summary, are you more or less optimistic that there's going to be baseball in 2020? And you can go to my Twitter feed at Glenn Geffner and cast your vote. Last I saw, 58% were less optimistic about baseball, having read that document. It's going to look a lot different. We know that for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. All right, let's start there with our guest. Now we welcome in our guest, Nick Neidert. I lied, but here he is. Nick, thanks again for joining us, buddy. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me.
Excellent. So you combed through the 67 pages, or at least you probably read about it. You think you'd be all right with washing your hands in between innings if that's what it takes?
Yeah, honestly, whatever it takes to get out of quarantine, that's it.
So what have you been doing? Take us back to whatever it was, I guess, mid-March, when you're in Jupiter, you're working out with the club, you're getting ready for maybe an outing or two here or there, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, guys, no more baseball for right now. We're shutting it down. Take us through kind of where you were at, what you did in March, and what you've been up to since.
Yeah, so it was something that was really unprecedented. I didn't think I'd be sitting at home right now, but I've been very fortunate. I've had a buddy from the Phillies I've been able to throw with to stay in shape, and it's been a lot of really good quality time with my family. almost a little too much quality time with the family, but it's very nice to be with everybody and just kind of talking amongst the league with guys. You know, we never really get this opportunity unless we're not playing, you know, baseball at the end of our career to get this amount of time with people. So it's really nice. I know all of us really want to get back out there and start playing soon.
Right.
For anybody who may not know your backstory, obviously you're one of the Marlins' top prospects. You were acquired in the D. Gordon trade with the Mariners, December 2017. And things were rolling along pretty good for you professionally. You were the Mariners Minor League Pitcher of the Year in 2017. It's the Jamie Moyer Prize, which was named for Jamie Moyer, who earned that honor by going something like 32-1 in his career against the Marlins. He had the Marlins number for years and years and years. You come to the Marlins, you're a Double-A in 2018, have a great year. You're the Marlins Minor League Pitcher of the Year. We saw you at Marlins Park for the ceremony in September that year. Last year felt like it was going to be the year we were going to see Nick Neidert make his Major League debut. And then you tear your meniscus at the start of the year, 3 starts in. You came back, finished strong with Arizona, pitched brilliantly. So 2019 you'll get to the big leagues. 2020, you say, well, this is going to be the year for Nick Neidert. You're having a great spring for the Marlins, opening a lot of eyes this spring. And now this. Do you begin to feel a little bit snake bit?
You know, it's funny. Those thoughts do creep in my head, but I'm a man that is just in love with the Lord, and I just know that He has everything in His hands, and through any circumstance, situation, that He's going to have me exactly where He needs me to be. You know, if we play this year and I get an opportunity to play in the big league, then I'll be extremely grateful. If it's next year, if it's the year after that, if it's never. So it's definitely frustrating at times because, like, man, 2019, I thought I was going to get an opportunity, then the meniscus, and then this year we're not even playing right now. So I just, you know, I'm doing a really good job of just staying hopeful and really just keeping my head high through it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about professional athletes, and of course physical attributes are from varying degrees. But one thing that a lot of you guys have is that mental side of things, and it takes time to cultivate too. But especially in baseball, knowing that just because you had one bad inning doesn't make it a bad outing, and one bad outing doesn't make it a bad season. So it's all about kind of compartmentalizing things. Where did you get that kind of mental aptitude or mental mindset about staying positive? Where did that all come from?
I would say definitely my faith. I kind of grew up just really thinking baseball was just everything. Like, I was ride or die. If I had a bad outing, I'm like, well, this season's a scratch. Like, it's all over. The ERA took a hit, everything. But then when I really dove into my faith, it's like, you know what? Like, this doesn't define me. Like, a bad year, a bad outing, a bad month, doesn't matter what it is. There's always another day that you get to do better. There's always another day that you get to be better. And it's also how you treat people throughout the whole entire process. I always thought that people are a lot bigger than the game of baseball. So treating people, that doesn't dictate whether, you know, you're having a great season or not. So I try to focus on those things that I can do right off the field along with on the field. And, you know, where the chips fall, they fall. And I'm going to work as hard as I can to be the best player I can be and, you know, hope for the best.
When you look at the physical end of things, shut down after about a month of spring training. We had Brandon Kintzler on a few weeks ago, and we asked him what a spring training 2.0 might look like or what it should look like. And he said, look, I just need a week or two to get ready. He's a closer, pitching an inning at a time. As you try to get stretched out as a starter, and particularly as a pitcher who relies heavily on your changeup, you've really improved your breaking balls in the last year, more of a touch and feel guy. And sometimes that touch and feel can be hard to get back. What kind of a spring training 2.0 do you think you would need to be ready to start the season?
Honestly, everything I could get. Obviously, the more amount of time, the better it would be for us starters or guys who are going to go longer out of the bullpen. I've been super fortunate right now that I've been able to throw bullpens, but I know there's been a lot of guys that have been thrown into mattresses. They tape it up against their wall. And so for guys like that, it's like when they get off the mound again, it's going to be a weird feeling. But I've been super fortunate. So honestly, however much amount of time they allow us, you know, we're going to take it, we're going to run with it, and we're going to prepare as quickly as possible.
Is that feel something that you worry about losing, or is it something you're able to maintain by throwing the way you're going right now?
I'm actually able to maintain it pretty well. You know, it's definitely different throwing bullpens versus facing live hitters and in spring training. So I think when that intensity ramps up, the soreness sits in a little bit more. So I think it'll take a couple weeks to get back into the swing of things, but however much time we can get, the better. But I know we need to get the season started as quickly as possible.
You're in Georgia right now. You were born certainly in that Atlanta area. When you grew up, were you a Braves guy?
Oh, yeah. Loved Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine. I mean,
it's a shame you didn't have any pitching role models growing up a Braves fan.
Oh, it's a shame. I mean, I had the best of the best here in Atlanta. I mean, I had every single player every year. I had the sheets of paper with their stats from the year before. I knew them. I grew up wearing the number 29 of John Smoltz. So I was so blessed here to see those guys pitch. I mean, and then, even the other pitchers on the team, that was a great baseball team.
So Smoltz was your guy.
Oh, Smoltz was my guy.
Even though stylistically maybe you're more of a Maddox. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. But growing up, everybody wanted to throw as hard as they could. And I just watched them throw on TV. I'm like, this dude's just so intimidating on the mound. Like, I want to be this guy.
Yeah.
And then now as I'm growing up, I'm like, okay, I guess I need to start looking into what Maddox and Glavine did, how they just were finesse pitchers. They were touch and feel, like you said. And that's a ton of fun to watch now because I can't blow, a 98-mile-an-hour fastball by people. But just watching that, it's so much fun.
One of the things that anytime we get a chance to, in this form, kind of talk at length with pitchers, I kind of came up with this anatomy of an arsenal sort of thing to kind of get the story of why you guys throw what you throw. First of all, what is your arsenal, and is there a fun story behind any one or two of the pitches as to why you throw a certain thing?
Yes, so I'm a fastball, changeup, slider, curveball guy. The curveball is actually pretty new. I started throwing it last year. It would be a pitch I would drop in, I would say probably 3, 4, 5 times a year. And my pitching coach was Dave LaRoche. So he was known for the lob, where he would just toss it in there. And I'll never forget, he would get on the mound and just toss it up there and hit a spot every single time. And I'm like, Roach, you just got to show me this thing. You have to show me how to throw it. And so sure enough, I started throwing this curveball. I implemented it probably towards the end of 2018, and I was throwing it 65 to 70 miles an hour. And it was very effective. And so the next year I moved in, and I started throwing it more and more. And Jeremy Powell, our pitching coach in AAA, he said, hey, throw that thing harder. He's like, I think you could get some really good bite to it. And sure enough, kept throwing it. And then this year in spring training, Mel Stottlemyre, he's like, you need to start landing that curveball, and you need to throw it with aggression. And it's just kind of developed into a pitch where I think it could be a really big game changer on just me being able to use my fastball up and my changeup down, and it just kind of separates things a little bit more. But yeah, like you guys were saying, I'm a fastball changeup mostly guy, and slider's more of a put away. And but yeah, curveball's going to be a new pitch that I'm hoping to implement this year a lot more.
I watched Trevor Hoffman. I was with him for 6 years in San Diego, one of the great changeups of all time. I went to Boston. Pedro Martinez had a great changeup. And on some levels, like you said, you don't blow guys away at 98, but it can be every bit as satisfying, maybe more satisfying, to get a guy to swing over the top one of those changeups than it is to blow him away, I'd have to think.
Oh, yeah. You get some really bad swings on changeups. And it's funny to me because, a lot of people are scared to throw it right on right changeup. And I've never seen such bad swings on changeups that you throw in the right location, right on right. Because it comes out just like a fastball. Guys are geared up halfway there. They're like, oh, this isn't a fastball. And then just end up spinning himself in the ground. So you get a lot of satisfaction by throwing some good changeups, that's for sure.
So in talking with you and reading about you, you seem like, again, the Marlins are doing a great job just kind of loading up on a lot of athleticism, but also really nice human beings. What do you like on game day? Do you have a little bit of an edge on a game day, or when do you start to get locked in?
Honestly, so I'm not a very serious guy when it comes down to just my day of starting. I know people who walk in the clubhouse, they're locked in from the moment they wake up in the morning. To me, I just can't lock in that long. It'll get about to noon time, and I'm like, well, I'm tired from being locked in right now. So I'm really loose. I'm really easygoing. And I would say I start warming up stretching, moving around, getting ready, probably an hour and a half before the game, so an hour before I go out there to start warming up. I put in my AirPods or my headphones, and I start listening to some music, and it kind of depends on the day. Sometimes I'll listen to some slower stuff. Sometimes I'll listen to a band called Skillet that is just, it's kind of like a hard rock Christian band, and it'll get you going a little bit more if I need that day. But I would say I truly lock it in when I step on the mound to start my pregame bullpen. Because to me, that's when the intensity ramps up. That's when you get locked in. That's when it's like, okay, I'm loose. I'm ready to go. It's time to get after it.
We mentioned the adversity you dealt with last year at AAA, really the first adversity you had to deal with on the field in 5 years of professional baseball. Was there anything you take out of last year that you look back on and can say you were able to turn that adversity into a little bit of a positive, find a silver lining with what you had to go through last season with the injury?
Absolutely. Going through that, yeah, like you said, I've never really had baseball taken away from me, in a sense when you look at it. And I would say it was very humbling, because it was something that I always relied on through my whole entire career. It's like, okay, I'm going to play tomorrow. Like, I'm going to be a part of the team tomorrow. And then going down to rehab in Jupiter, getting surgery, it basically makes you realize that life is different than baseball when you don't have baseball. And so it kind of made me take a step back and appreciate when I would play the game. And I was able to share that with some of the younger guys that just got drafted. I said, hey, listen, like, baseball's a lot of fun, but you have to take a step back and realize that there's a lot more than the game of baseball. And it can easily be taken away from you, just as it can be when you're playing the game. And you just have to take a step back and look and realize that baseball isn't the whole scope of things, because it can be taken away. And that just made me appreciate the game a lot more. So when I did come back, I mean, I've always been a hard worker, but I would say I worked even harder, and I pushed even harder to be better, to learn more, to work at my craft. And because I actually had an appreciation for the game I never had before.
I don't want to harp on the injury too much, but and I know that you mentioned talking with some of the younger players. I know there's a lot of meat on that bone. I want to get to that in just a second. But in terms of trying to put this injury piece to bed here, this was not an injury that was like, oh, I hurt my knee and I'm going into surgery tomorrow, right? This was something that kind of lingered, or you weren't sure what it was for a couple of days and tried to work through it. Am I right? How did that, from day one of injury to surgery to all of that, what was that timeline for you?
So it was after, I think it was during or right after my second outing. We were up in Omaha, and I felt a pop in my knee. And honestly, my knees pop all the time, so I didn't think much of it. And so that day, it just kind of felt weird. And the next day was our last game in Omaha. It was a cold day, and I was running my poles like I do the day after, and I just noticed that my knee was extremely weak. And I went to go throw, and I had a sharp pain in my knee. And to me, I was like, okay, I just tweaked it a little bit. I'll be fine. I've felt something like this before, and it just kind of went away. And the next thing I knew, later in the week, I threw my bullpen, and it just didn't feel right. I felt like I couldn't push off the rubber, felt that sharp pain. Start day came around, and I'm a competitor. And if something hurts me, I'm like, you know what, we'll figure it out later. We're good to go. And so I get on the mound, and I just couldn't push. I was trying and didn't make it out of the first inning. I was limping off the field, went straight in the clubhouse. I think I sat in the same seat for the next 3 hours while the game was being played. I've never sat in a clubhouse that long. And so I was like, man, what just happened? And my knee hurts really bad. So I was in one of those places. Thank goodness our head trainer was in town. He checked it out. He's like, Nick, I think you might have torn your meniscus. And I was like, okay, that's a maybe. You don't know that for sure. I can play through this. We're going to be fine. Sure enough, it just never got better. They sent me down to Jupiter, got an MRI, said it was torn, tried to rehab it a little bit, and then the rehab just wasn't working. So we just went in and got it fixed. Out 8 to 10 more weeks. I don't know the exact time frame. Met the AAA team back out in Salt Lake and finished out the rest of the season with them.
Had to feel good to get back in August and pitch very well, and then go to Arizona and be absolutely dominant, help that Salt River team win a championship last year. Going into the offseason, having that peace of mind that, okay, I'm finally healthy and I'm back where I thought I should have been to start the year.
Yeah, it was, oh my gosh, that team was so much fun. We were so good. It was one of those things where you're in the clubhouse and you're looking around and it's like, man, anybody in this clubhouse can be just the next star in the big league. That was so much fun, and to just like pick different guys' brains about everything. It was so much fun. We had our manager Keith Johnson there from AAA. He was our manager there, and he was phenomenal to play with. And yeah, it was a good peace of mind to know that I was healthy, to know that my knee felt good, that I was strong, and to go into the off season knowing, all right, I'm good to go. Like, we can train, we can do everything to be ready, to be better in 2020. To be honest.
To go to the Arizona Fall League is an honor. To go there twice is also good, but you're not eligible, but you also want to be there too much. I, unfortunately, was in the Arizona Fall League 7 times as a broadcaster, so I was stuck there for a little while. But anyway, so as I would go there in my time during MLB Network, we would broadcast the Fall Stars game that you played in, and the Military Appreciation game, the championship game. And, was it a selling point for me to say it at the time? Maybe, but it was also a reality, too. You guys are only together for a 40-game stretch or 6 or 8 weeks or whatever it is. But when you are together like that, you make fast friends, and no matter what season you're here in this part of the season, and this guy was over there on that organization, whatever, but you guys won a championship together. And I know that a championship at a much different level, a World Series, is what the Marlins are after. But what did you garner from having to rely on teammates in a playoff championship type format that you think can then get you to that next level, or may have unlocked while you were in Arizona?
Well, what was kind of funny is KJ, we call Keith Johnson KJ. He walked into the clubhouse the very first day for the meeting, and he said, "Welcome, boys, to the Arizona Fall League." He's like, "You're sitting amongst the champions of the 2019 Arizona Fall League." So right off the bat, KJ is someone who just wants to win. And I think that's contagious. We had so much fun, but at the same time, when we got out there on the field, we competed together extremely well. And we just gelled together. I think the big part of it was getting to know your teammates. You see all these great teams throughout all of history, and they all gel together really well. And that's what they all talk about. And I think it was a great fit and a great mix of guys. And it just, to me, a lot of people think that baseball is all business, but it's a kid's game. Like, it's about loving the game. It's about having fun. It's about having fun with the guys that you're with. And I take that, and it's like, okay, like, how can we implement fun in competition? It's like, you have to know your teammates really well, and you have to be willing to go out there and compete, and to be able to trust the guy to your right and to your left. And I say I would learn that probably the most out of everything else, and the fact that baseball's a ton of fun. I loved it.
You're regarded, Nick, as a huge part of this franchise's future. You've had a front row seat for this building process, really, since coming over in December of 2017. You, as I mentioned, came over the D. Gordon trade, probably the first big prospect this new ownership group brought over in a trade. Before the Ozuna trade, the Stanton trade, and the Yelich trade, brought over many others, and others have been drafted, certainly. Give us your perspective watching this all unfold over the last couple of years and coming to spring training this year, as you've played with so many of these names we've been hearing about, that finally here in 2020 or 2021, before too long, we're going to see in Miami, hopefully building toward the next Marlins championship.
Yeah, coming in, I did get a front row seat, and I came into something. First thing that I heard when coming over is, hey, they're in a rebuild. This is a great opportunity. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. I'm ready. I'm always in for a challenge. I'm always in to push other people to be the best that they can be. And next thing you know, they got Monte, Isan, Yami, Brinson, and then you just go down the line, and they just keep getting more dudes that I played against. I'm like, this guy's good. Like, this guy's good. I know it. And so, I know the front office gets a lot of heat over the past couple of years, but in a rebuild, you're going to have that, because you want to make sure everybody's ready to go when they get to the big leagues. And I would say this year, stepping into spring training, it was like, we got a team. Like, we have a team here, and we have a really good team in AAA. So it's like once these two gel together, it's going to be incredible. Like, it's going to be so much fun. And I know the fans are going to love it. I know the fans are going to be able to rally around us because we have so many different personalities on that team. And, I mean, as you can see with Yamamoto, like, he's a character, and we love him to death. But it's just every single guy is so unique. And I really can't wait to see when everything gets put together.
Yeah.
How much do you guys talk among yourselves about what you got the chance to be a part of when you're in AA, AAA, in spring training? You guys talk a lot among yourselves about this process?
Oh, yeah. I know I lived with Monte this year in spring training, and from day one when we stepped foot in Jacksonville in 2018 to last year to this year, it's like, this thing's going to be special. Like people need to watch out. This is going to be a special team come soon. Once everybody puts everything together, it's going to be fun.
And I think, I would imagine, I guess I imagine that there's also a different sort of, there would be pride in any sort of championship club, and I understand you guys are not there yet. I'm not going to, plan the parade just yet, but that you guys in this group, this next wave, you guys are not just following in someone else's footsteps. You are the ones that are laying the groundwork, right? This is not, I just watched the Last Dance. This is not Steve Kerr taking over for John Paxson, right? This is not Dennis Rodman coming in taking over for Horace Grant. There's nothing there right now. This is a blank slate, and you guys are all kind of building it all together. Is there a different pride that comes with that too?
For sure. I would say from the leadership standpoint, from Derek Jeter being the competitor that he was when he played and still is now, that's just embedded in him, is being a competitor and winning. And that, I think that trickles down to Don Mattingly. I think it trickles down to Miggy Rowe and the veteran guys on the team. Everybody's kind of in unison saying, hey, if we want to win, it starts here. It starts by everybody doing their part. And like you said, it's not like, okay, like these guys did it this way, now like we get to carry that on. It's like, okay, we get to lay the groundwork and we get to build this organization up. And I think that we're doing a really good job that every single year it's just kept building and building and building. And I think it's just going to keep going through the roof. Every single year there's going to be an increased number of wins, but just like a better atmosphere, a better team, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
You mentioned Derek Jeter's name. There have been a lot of questions, especially on the outside. Hey, what the heck are the Marlins doing under Derek Jeter these last couple of years? This guy's never lost at anything in his life. And the line I've used for the last 2.5 years is Derek Jeter didn't come here to get his ass kicked. He's here to win, and it's going to take a little bit of time. But when you talk about Jeter, the captain, I know you've been a part of a couple of the Marlins captain camps the last couple of years. Take fans behind the scenes into what that experience is like when you talk about building future champions, future leaders.
So, like you said, Derek Jeter, he didn't come here to lose. He came here to win. He's a competitor.
We can say that in this forum.
He came and he took this thing that he saw that was kind of broken, and he's like, I'm going to make this a winning championship team. Like, this is what I want to do. And they do a really great job of the captain's camp, taking younger guys and taking a couple older guys and showing us what it means and teaching us what it means to have a winning culture. And it's about pursuing excellence. It's about being a good teammate. It's about, what I love the most is not about what we do on the field, but how we are off the field. Because we don't want to just be a great baseball team. We want to be great people in the community to help out, to love the city of Miami. And I think that goes a long way too. It's not just competing and being great on the field, but it's about being great off the field too. And they teach both aspects of that. Like, we go do community service just about once or twice a week. We do a lot of meetings where you have a lot of great players in the game come and speak. And I've noticed the past 2 years, Miggy Rowe has came in and he's talked about it because he's someone who, you see him work, it's a different level of work, and he pushes guys to be better. And it's like, you need that in the clubhouse. And he's the captain of our team, and he shows us younger guys like, hey, like, if you want to win, like, we got to do this stuff right. And he doesn't do that for show. That's just who he is. And I think the overall captain's camp is a really great thing to creating leaders in the organization to lead the other guys coming along too, but to kind of lay that groundwork on, hey, this is the expectations, and y'all need to lead. Y'all need to do this. Like, the management can only do so much. It's about what happens in the clubhouse.
Well, speaking of giving back and being active in the community, you certainly are doing a lot of that. I know that there is a ministry near where you live that you've been involved with, and that's taken you to Guatemala. When did that begin? We'll kind of break that all down too. But how did that all start?
It started back in 2018. Actually, I guess we could take it back to 2015. I played with a gentleman named Julius Gaines. He went to FIU. And he used to hold Bible studies in his room with a bunch of different guys. If you wanted to come just to sit there, if you wanted to come participate, he was all open for that. And so I got introduced to him. We got pretty close. He actually lives about an hour away from me here. And fast forward to 2018 when I was in Jacksonville, his youth pastor at FIU started a church in Jacksonville. And Julius called me one day. He said, "Hey, I have this guy, Zach Cumbus. He started a church down there. I would love for you guys to meet." I said, "Okay, when?" He's like, "Well, he's on his way to a Jumbo Shrimp game right now. So leave tickets." I said, "Absolutely." Met him and his family, and it was just an instant connection. It was like, this guy is awesome. I need to meet with him. And sure enough, that led to discipleships at a First Watch. If you've never been to First Watch, highly recommended. And it just took off. And about halfway through the season, he said, "Hey, I know this is kind of far out there. I know you really don't know me that well, but I lead a group of people down to Guatemala every fall, winter time to do a mission trip for a week long. It's through Living Water Adopt a Child, Guatemala, and it's amazing. Would you like to come?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'd love to. Like, let me pray about it. Let me read more into this, and I'll get back to you." Sure enough, a week later, I was like, "I'm in." Like, I've always wanted to do something like this. And it's just like the rest is history. It's been so life-changing and absolutely amazing.
What's the nature of your work when you go down there?
So it's an organization that sponsors kids. And so the main mission is to share Jesus with them and to show them the hope that is Jesus Christ. And they have a church ministry, but they also have a ministry that is a bunch of feeding centers all throughout kind of the mountains of Guatemala. And you go around and we do a bunch of house visits, meeting the kids, meeting the families, praying over them. We bring rice and beans and kind of whatever else we have. We bring a lot of toys, and they love candy, so we bring them candy. And just to pour into them there. And when you go to these feeding centers, it's hundreds, sometimes even thousands of kids coming to get maybe their only meal of the day. You really don't know. And what's great is they never turn a kid away. They never say, "Hey, sorry, you can't have a meal." And what's even more amazing, they started this program, M25, because of this old grandmother. She was in her 80s, and her granddaughter would walk, I think it was 2 hours a day towards the feeding center, eat food, and to go back. And so this lady came up one day and she said, "Excuse me, can I just have one tortilla? Some days I don't even know if I can make it back." And they're like, "No, like we can't give you one tortilla. Like, you can have a full meal." Mm-hmm. Like, you're walking with your granddaughter to get her one meal and then back. We can do way more than that. So now they don't even turn away grandmothers or mothers that walk with their kids to get food. They give everybody food, and it is the most amazing thing. And like the heart of the ministry, Steve McDaniels, who's the director, he does a fantastic job. And I've never seen someone love people the way he loves people. It's been incredible. I can go on for story, but it's a beautiful ministry. Jesus is just right at the center, and it's honestly the purest thing that I do. Everything.
I'm sure an experience like that has to do wonders in helping you keep baseball and the rest of this stuff in perspective.
Oh, absolutely. You see when you go up in the mountains, you see people living in adobes. You see people not being able to take a shower. And we complain that, we go all day, "Oh man, I'm sweaty. I didn't even get to take a shower today." And it just puts everything in perspective and how truly blessed we are here in America to have what we have. And it just makes me look, whenever I complain about something, it's like, well, I shouldn't really complain about this. like I'm very fortunate, and it's honestly amazing. I love it.
And have you extended your family a little bit throughout this process as well?
Yeah, my mom came down with me this past year, and she fell in love with it. So she's in the medical field, and they do medical campaigns, and she got plugged in, and she's going to do one, I believe, next year. And if we're able to go this fall time, I don't know, obviously with baseball and this whole pandemic going on, my dad's going to come down with me. So there's a family not a family, there's a kid, his name's Manuel, and I sponsor him. My buddy Julie sponsors his brother Henry. So we kind of have a little family dynamic going on. And they have mud floors. And we thought about this last year, like, hey, what if we come in and we can pour some concrete? And their house goes down probably about half a mile. And so, like, you can't get there by truck. So we thought about bringing bags and little thing to stir up the concrete mix and help them lay a foundation. So when it rains, they don't track mud into their house, because they just have these different buildings for different things. And it's like, well, if it rains, like, you can't get to the kitchen and can't get back. So we're going to go and we're going to help lay that foundation so they can at least stay clean as best as they can.
Wow. That's terrific stuff, man. Keep up the good work. It's great. Glad we were able to do our, I guess, little part to help get that message out a little bit about what you do. It's fantastic. Keep that up. And with that off the field aspect of perspective, with that on the field aspect of perspective, where do you stand with what we were talking about a few minutes ago in terms of the other youngsters? Are you trying to instill some of this on them as well?
Absolutely, because I think it trickles down from the big league levels down, and it starts at the top. It starts by the way your major league guys act in AAA and AA. And when I was in rehab last year, I wanted to relay to the guys, like, hey, this isn't just some summer ball thing that we do. Like, we're trying to win. We're trying to play the game as best as we can to win. For me, I grew up, whenever I got a second place trophy, I would throw it away. I was like, Dad, we don't need this. Like, we win or we don't. Like, that's it. And so that's the kind of.
I think your boss was like that too.
Yeah, he was. He definitely was. But I'm trying to instill in them kind of a work ethic and trying to not get under their skin, but trying to light a little bit of a fire, saying, hey, like, if we want to be special, we have to do special things. We have to work hard. We have to do the right things all the time, whether people are watching or they aren't, because you can't cheat around the corners when no one's watching, and then when someone's watching, be like, oh, Derek's watching, like, I gotta go, like, do this perfectly. It's like, no, it's when no one's watching, that's what separates you. And it's like, appreciate the game, because it goes quick. I can't believe I got drafted back in 15. I'm already in 2020, and next thing you know, we're going to be in 2025, and hopefully I'm still playing the game of baseball. So it just goes by quick, and I've been very fortunate to be playing for 5 years, and I don't know if I'll get another 5 years, but I just tell them to appreciate the game as best as they can.
Are there some veteran players in this organization over the last few years, whether it's in spring training or other times of the year, who have kind of inspired you in this regard?
I would say Miggy Rojas, just because he loves to win, and he's one of those guys that's just sick and tired of everybody saying that the Marlins are just going to be losers. He's really over that, and he voices his opinion about how he just doesn't want to lose anymore. He's like, I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of this, because he's been someone who's been with the organization for a long time. And he's like, I've been a part when we were losing and when we were one of the worst teams in the MLB. He's like, I want to see us get to where we are the best team in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, we got to, maybe he'll sponsor the show. It seems like every other show somebody's giving him some love, and it's all well deserved. I mean, he's again where the Marlins decide that they wanted to go and need to take the right steps to go there. It came as no surprise that Miguel Rojas signed that extension last year. Again, well deserved for what he means to this organization.
Absolutely.
Working with Mel Stottlemyre Jr. I know he was kind of new to the organization going into last year. Seeing him, I'm sure, at some points in the 2019 spring training, working with him again in 2020. What have you learned from Mel?
Gosh, Mel is a baseball pitching wizard when it comes down to it. He's just so factual, and he will talk to me about pitching in ways that I'm like, I I feel like I have to go write this in a notebook and then dissect it so I can understand what he's talking about. Because he's so smart. He's been around so many amazing pitchers. I mean, his dad was one of the greatest pitching coaches of all time. So the knowledge that he gained from his dad, it's amazing. Like it really, he tells me ways I can use my stuff that I didn't even think about. And it's just, I think he really helps every single pitcher be the best pitcher that you can be. And to have a coach like that who wants every single guy, doesn't matter who you are. I saw this in camp this year. He's like, it doesn't matter who you are. I want you to be the best version you can be. So when you get up here, it's like, okay, like you did what I told you to work on. You did what is going to make you better. Let's go get him. And so that's amazing to me that he's like, and he'll take any amount of time to work with any guy. If you ask him, hey Mel, can we work on this? He's like, let's go. And it's off. You're going. And he's a lot of fun to work with. I love Mel. He's awesome.
I know. That's why for us, he's so hard to get a hold of. He's always working with everybody. It's like I've had so few conversations with Mel only because he's always busy. I'm sure he would spend hours with me if he had the time, but he's too busy working with you guys, which is, again, a testament to his work ethic, which, again, it bleeds into what you guys are doing. So that's good to hear.
I was really struck watching Mel in spring training last year, going back to 2019, his first year in the organization. You'd think there'd be a period of adjustment where he just sits back and watches and observes a little bit. But from literally the first day of pitchers and catchers workouts, he was so hands-on. He was really throwing himself into it from day one last year.
Oh, Mel knew everybody pitching style better than we knew ourselves in day 2019 spring training. He came in, and he's like, oh, Nick Neidert. He's like, I remember you, because he was in Seattle for a little bit. So, he's like, I remember you from here, and you're this, and this kind of pitcher. You struggle with this, and this. These are the things we're going to work on. I'm like, spot on. Here we go. Let's do it. So he does his homework so well, and he knows everybody so well. Like, he never goes into a conversation unprepared with someone, and when it comes to pitching. And it's like, okay, Mel, I've never talked to you, but you're spot on. Let's do it. Let's go.
As you were, and as you continue to gear up for whatever 2020 will look like again, hopefully, what are your expectations for yourself this season?
Honestly, whatever I can do to help the team, whatever role it may be, just because this is such a unprecedented time. I really hope, honestly, expectation that we get to play this year. But whatever role I can be on the major league team, I want to jump in. I want to help the guys win. I want to do my part and be the best pitcher I can be. That's all I can ask. I ask for opportunities, and I ask for chances to go out there and pitch. And I really hope I get that this year.
You ever close your eyes and envision what that moment will be like when you make your major league debut?
Yeah, so I used to envision it with a lot of people from home. They're watching me, but I think if it happens this year, I may be in an empty stadium with no fans, with my parents calling me after the game. So whatever it looks like, I'm good with.
Well, tell them they can watch Paul on TV and turn the volume down and listen to me on the radio.
Amazing.
That's perfect. We have a fan question here for you, Geff. I think.
Yeah, we had Johnny on Twitter wanted to ask you, Nick, what hitter in baseball history would you like to have faced?
Oof. I would say Barry Bonds, but I listened to Greg Maddux one time talk about he was the easiest AB because all he did was just walk him. So, honestly, I would kind of like to face my boss, Jeter, just because you watch him play, and it's like, I would watch him, and I'm like, how do you get this guy out? Like, you throw a fastball away, he hits it the other way. Like, he just manipulated the bat to ball in just a way that I'm like, I don't understand how inside out of that will pitch. I have no idea. So he would be someone that's just a fun AB because he was a really good hitter. He was someone that could just turn on you, but at the same time, if he needed to get someone over, he'd get someone over. So guys like that are fun ABs for me that will just battle you. And it's like when you win, it's like, okay, I got him this time, but I know next time he's going to come even hungrier to beat me.
Yeah, well over 3,000 hits, a Hall of Famer. You're setting yourself up for failure there, Nick. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
should have gone with somebody easier.
I like the challenge.
Good. Yeah, I've got one more from me before we get into the home stretch here. Mention you're known for your changeup. You're also known for your immaculate control and command. We talk so much about young pitchers in this organization and in others who have the great stuff, but can they throw enough strikes? Can they hit their spots? Where does that control and command in your case come from? Is it something that's always been there? Or is it something you worked at? How did you develop that? Because that's a tool a lot of pitchers are looking for.
Growing up, I was always kind of a smaller kid that really didn't throw hard. So my coaches were like, hey, if you want to pitch, like you can't throw the ball down the middle. And I'm like, all right, I guess that means I have to hit some spots. So I learned there. And then kind of over the years, I didn't pitch for a little while, my younger years in high school. And then towards the back end, I started getting off the mound again. And next thing I knew, I had really good command. Next thing I knew, velocity came behind me. And then it just kind of all started going on. And I'll never forget, I was watching the Giants World Series game versus Kansas City. Ventura was on the mound, and Blanco was at the plate. And Ventura, flamethrower. And I'll never forget, he threw a fastball at, it was either 99 or 100, right down the middle. And Blanco turned on it like it was 80. And at that point, I was like, okay, like I know I have to, like if 99 gets turned around that way, I know my 88 to 92 is going to get turned around even harder. So it just kind of got instilled in me as like, hey, if I want to be successful, like I got to hit my corners. I got to work back and forth, up and down. And Mel Stottlemyre helps out a lot with that. He's really knowledgeable, and he's like, hey, listen, like you're this kind of guy. Let's go to work. I'm like, let's do it.
Better than a 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio in your career. And I mentioned the two terms, command and control. Control is throwing strikes. Command is putting the baseball exactly where you want to put it. Because as you said, putting a pitch right down the middle, even at 98, is not going to do you a whole lot of good at this level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen 102, honestly, get turned around.
We see it all the time now.
All the time. And so for me, I'm like, well, if I'm sitting 90, I definitely got to hit a corner. Like I don't need to be perfect, but I know that wherever my catcher sets up, I need to hit that target. I need to throw through that target.
Yeah, one thing that Greg Maddux used to say, and I'm sure you've heard this, is make the strikes look like balls and the balls look like strikes. That's the key to his pitching, and again, similar kind of mindset for you two guys. So the other thing before we let you go, we always do toward the end of our conversations. I know that you're a pitcher, and if there's baseball in 2020, it's probably going to be a DH, so you may not do much hitting. But we have a hit and run segment, so it's some quick hitting, fun topics, and then we let you run. So Geff has those today.
All right, number one for you, Nick. You pitched in Clinton, Iowa, and you pitched in New Orleans. Tell me one thing those two cities have in common.
Oh, man. No fans. No fans.
Wow. Okay. All right. New Orleans moving on to Wichita this year. When you get to the big leagues, what's the thing you're going to miss the least about life in the minor leagues?
The long trips in a bus or the long nights at the airport. Those create a lot of team bonding.
Mm-hmm. Which might actually go into the next answer. What's the thing you're going to miss the most about life in the minor leagues when you get to the majors?
Oh, man, that's a good one. I would say that's the same answer, too. Like, I love it, but I hate it at the same time. I don't know which one. I would say the same answer.
We have some very early morning arrivals in the major leagues, too, some long nights in the air. They're not bus rides, but we have some late nights, too, you can look forward to when you get to the big leagues, that's for sure. The current big league pitcher you most enjoy watching?
Probably Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer.
Yeah, we don't look forward to seeing those guys.
Yeah.
We see a lot of them.
We do and we don't.
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, for sure. And finally, before we let you run here, give me the name of a teammate you've had in this organization in the minors who you feel like doesn't get the attention he ought to be getting as a prospect. A lot of hype for a lot of these guys.
A lot of hype. I would say, man, I played with someone, Eddie Alvarez, last year, who honestly was probably my favorite player to watch just because of how hard he plays, and he's just got so much skill. And I feel like he deserves a lot more attention than what he gets because he's so good and he's so raw, and he's just a baseball player. Like, you see him play the game and you're like, this dude, he's got it. Like, he's just got it. So
yeah, he's an older guy. an older guy, an amazing story, an Olympic medalist in speed skating. So that's why his baseball was delayed a little bit. But actually, Paul, he's a guy we ought to get on this show one of these days. Be a fun guy to talk to.
I mean, we got time. Right now, we've got time.
We've got time.
We are accepting guests. We are accepting guests. Yes. This was a fun one today, Nick. It was a pleasure to get to know you a little bit more, have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation than maybe we would normally have had with you in Jupiter. So this was great. We appreciate the time, man.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me.
All right.
Thanks so much, Nick. This was fun.
All right, Nick Neidert. We appreciate that. Geff, again, it's such a deep system for the Marlins when it comes to pitching, and Nick has kind of been at or near the top of that list now for a couple of years.
Well, you think of the big young arms we've seen in the big leagues already, and then you look at AAA and at AA, and you think about Nick Neidert, and you think about Sixto Sanchez, and George Guzman, and Edward Cabrera, and Braxton Garrett, and Trevor Rogers, and you just go down the line. It's an exciting time, and there's going to be a lot of competition among these young pitchers because there are only 5 spots in that rotation, and you've already got the Alcantaras and pitchers like that at the big league level, and Caleb Smith, who's a little bit older but has made his mark already. So it's going to be fun to watch this play out if there is a 2020 season and in 2021 and beyond, because there are a lot of arms on the way.
Yeah, without question. Again, he was fantastic. We appreciate him joining us. Thanks again to the Marlins for that. Again, let's get back to our question of the day once again to kind of recap where we were at with that. Let me pull that one up right there.
Yeah, time is running out to vote. We've seen that 67-page document now that kind of begins to spell out what it would look like if we're able to play baseball from a safety and health standpoint, players washing their hands at the end of every half inning and changing baseballs, and no sunflower seeds, no tobacco, no spitting, no high fives, no hugging, things like that. So we asked, seeing that document, or at least a summary of it, are you more or less optimistic that we're going to see baseball here in 2020? And last I looked, it was 58% less optimistic, 42% more optimistic. We'll see. Those guidelines are only guidelines that are still going to be tweaked, but it does, I think, kind of spell out how complicated it's going to be from a health and safety standpoint. You've heard, though, in the last 24, 48 hours, some progress. I know there was a Players Association conference call last night, it sounded like, where they're talking about those guidelines more than they're talking about money. And when you get into the hows and not the ifs, that's encouraging.
Right, absolutely. Again, we keep our fingers crossed. We love doing this show. It's just we would like to be doing it from our hotel rooms somewhere a few hours before a game, as opposed to on yet another day off. Another reminder about the home run rewards. Again, we kind of partnered with the Marlins a little bit there. The bonus code today is FANTASY, FANTASY. Fans can now earn points by picking a player for each simulated game in the Marlins version of fantasy baseball. You can log in, enter the bonus code FANTASY, pick a player for extra points. That's marlins.com/rewards. Again, another fun show today, and we've got it. It'll be on YouTube and stuff like that. We're bookmarking different parts of the conversation. Hope that you can watch the whole thing. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and that sort of thing as well. And as Geff mentioned, we're working on it a little bit, branching this thing out into more of a podcast form as well. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that.
Sev Geff podcast is coming. We're going to be the kings of all media.
I know. Fish Stripes actually wrote it here. It's right here. I'll add it to the broadcast right here. The media empire continues to expand.
Wow, all right.
So there you go. Thank you, Fish Stripes. We appreciate that.
Hey, by the way, you mentioned Fish Stripes. A shout out to Fish Stripes. There is not, to this point, an official Marlins Hall of Fame, but they put out several weeks ago, I guess, maybe even a month ago at this point. The days and weeks are kind of running together.
Right.
But they put out a call for fans to vote for an inaugural class of their Marlins Hall of Fame. And over the course of the last 3 days, they've rolled out 7 players in the first class, some fans, some broadcasters, some non-uniform personnel. Today, some great moments in Marlins history. So check out Fish Stripes, some really fun stuff on there. And hopefully one of these days before too long, Marlins are coming up before too long in their 30th season. It'd be cool to have an official Marlins Hall of Fame, but for now the conversation is alive and well in Fish Stripes.
Right. And a lot of great ones to choose from. A lot of great ones missed the list as well, or missed that final cut too.
It'll be a second year and a third year.
Absolutely.
Can't all be first ballot.
No, I guess that's fair enough. All right, so anyway, we appreciate it. Thanks again to Nick Neidert and the Marlins, and stay tuned in the next couple of days and over the next week or so, hopefully less than that. We'll figure out who is going to be on next. We'll let you all know, but for now, Geff, it's been a pleasure, pal. We'll talk to you soon, man.
It's always fun. I got to figure out a haircut between now and the next time we do this. Getting a little bit shaggy here.
I can hook you up.
Really? Well, yeah, obviously.
I know a guy. I know a guy.
I'm not sure I trust your guy. With this head of hair?
I know.
Let's do it again soon.
It's luscious. All right. That's a great spot to stop. All right, Geff. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Yes, sir.